just sitting here in my car in the garage. Engine's off. I've got the Ring footage pulled up on my phone from 2 in the morning and I honestly don't even know where to start. He's walking back from the driveway, and he has this look on his face. Just blank, like he's not even there. It's the same look he had at dinner last night. I spent 6 hours on that pot roast, and he's just sitting there, nodding and asking about my day, knowing he'd been out in the dark. I just feel drained. I'm 54, and I feel like I've been doing everything for everyone for 25 years, and I'm just done. My life is basically just logistics. That's all it is. Like this morning, the first thing I noticed was that it was freezing in the bedroom. I checked the thermostat, and of course, it was set to 68 again. He says it's better for sleep, but I hate it. I just bumped it up to 72 and went to the kitchen. I took my collagen supplement, which, honestly, I'm pretty sure is just expensive powder that does nothing, and started the coffee. Then the chaos started. Leo was panicking because he couldn't find his shin guards for practice. I spent 10 minutes digging through the mudroom, moving boots and umbrellas, and finally found one shoved behind this recycling bin. It smelled like a locker room. Where were these? I asked. Leo just shrugged. I don't know. Then David walks in, all dressed up for work. He looks at me and asks, "Did you see my blue folder?" I can't find my blue folder. The folder was sitting right there on the kitchen island, under some mail I'd already sorted. It's right here, David, I said. Oh, he said. I didn't see it, you probably moved it. That's just how it is, everything is my fault, or I moved it, or I'm overreacting. It's just this constant low-level noise. Anyway, I had to run a few errands before the school event. Had to do some returns at the mall because I'm the only one who knows how to print the labels. I only went because I had a coupon for new sheets. While I was in line, I realized I'd forgotten to move the laundry to the dryer. I could probably smell the mildew on the uniforms from the parking lot. I stood there for a minute for a second and felt, ugh. A few months ago, the minivan battery died in a parking lot. I was standing there in the rain waiting for a tow, and David called me from his office to ask if I could maybe figure out why the car wouldn't start. I told him it's probably because he leaves the interior light on every single night, and he just said, "God, Maria, why are you always so negative? Just call the truck." So I get home, throw the uniforms in the dryer on high heat, and get ready for the PTA fundraiser. I was exhausted. My back was killing me. I just wanted to go, smile for an hour, and come home to a house that didn't feel like a giant to-do list. The event was at the elementary school. Lukewarm coffee and those tiny cupcakes that taste like cardboard. David was there, acting the part. He's great at that. He was chatting with the other dads, laughing, being the fun one. I was just standing by the sign-up sheet for the spring carnival, checking boxes and making sure people actually wrote their phone numbers down. At one point, I saw him talking to a woman I didn't recognize. Younger, maybe in her 30s, wearing a dress that was a little too tight for a school function. They weren't touching, but they were standing way too close. And he had that look on his face, that same blank look from the Ring footage. I didn't say anything. I just walked over and said, "David, we need to leave in 5 minutes if we want to beat the traffic bot." He jumped. Literally jumped. "I'm just talking to a colleague, Maria," he said. "I didn't say you weren't," I said. "Why are you always on my case?" he said. "It's really exhausting." I didn't even have the energy to argue. I just walked back to the car and waited for him. When we got home, he went straight into the bathroom to shower. I started picking up the coats from the entryway. I grabbed his blazer to hang it up, and as I lifted it, something slipped out of the inner pocket. A small gold earring, a hoop. I've never worn gold hoops, I only wear studs. I just stared at it and felt sick. I didn't go into the bathroom or scream. I just walked over to the laundry room and put the earring on the washer, right next to my collagen powder. Then I remembered the Ring footage. The 2 a.m. walk, the blank face. I went back to my phone and scrolled through the last 2 weeks. Tuesday at 2:15 a.m. Thursday at 1:40 a.m. He wasn't just walking to the driveway, he was meeting someone. Someone who stayed in the shadows just out of frame. But there was always a dark sedan there. I spent the next hour just scrolling, my thumb rubbing against the screen. Then I saw a clip from last Friday. He's coming back inside and he's holding a small white envelope. He looks around the neighborhood, checks the street, and then slides the envelope under the welcome mat. I went outside and lifted the mat. Nothing there now, obviously, but there was a faint rectangular indentation in the dust. I walked back inside and looked at the earring on the washer. Then I looked at the bathroom door. I could hear the shower running. I reached over and turned the thermostat down to 62. I don't even know where to begin with this, but am literally shaking while typing. David walked into the laundry room after his shower, just drying his hair and acting like he hadn't been meeting some random person in a car at 2 a.m. He stopped when he saw me. I just pointed at the gold hoop earring sitting next to my collagen powder. "What is this?" He looked at it, then at me, and he didn't even blink. "I have no idea. Maybe it fell out of one of your bags? Or maybe it was in that blazer you took to the cleaners." "I don't wear gold hoops, David. I've had the same diamond studs for 15 years. Then he did that thing where he sighs really loud to make me feel like I'm just being a burden. Jesus, Maria. Why is everything an interrogation? I probably just picked it up at the office. Someone probably dropped it in the break room and it got caught in my sleeve. I didn't even notice it. In your inner pocket? I don't know how it got there," he snapped. "Are you seriously doing this right now? I just got home from a long day at the school event. I can't even take a shower without being accused of something. It's exhausting." I stood there for a minute. I didn't even argue. I just picked up the earring and put it in a baggie. I didn't tell him about the camera footage yet. I just walked past him and went to the kitchen to start the dishwasher. He'd left a bunch of crusty plates in the sink, and the rinse aid was empty, again. The only one who ever notices that. The next morning was a total disaster. I was trying to get the kids out the door and realized I'd forgotten to move the laundry to the dryer. The uniforms had that sour mildew smell, and I was frantically tossing them back in on high heat, trying to get them dry in 10 minutes. When someone knocked on the door, it was Rick Saunders. He lives 3 houses down and basically thinks he runs the neighborhood. He's the type of guy who spends every weekend power washing his driveway and reporting people's grass height to the HOA. "Morning, Maria," he said, leaning against the doorframe with this smug little smile. "Just popping by to see if you saw the email about suspicious cars. I noticed a dark sedan idling near your driveway a few times this week. Thought I'd mention it in person, just in case." I felt a chill. "A dark sedan." "Yeah," Rick said, stepping a bit closer and lowering his voice. "I don't want to overstep, but I saw David talking to someone in it late. Like really late. I didn't think much of it at first, but then I saw it again on Tuesday. I figured you knew, but you know how it is. Just look out for yourself." He wasn't actually trying to be helpful, he was enjoying it. He liked knowing something I didn't. He gave me just enough to make me paranoid, but not enough to actually be useful. "Thanks, Rick," I said. "No problem. Oh, by the way, your sprinkler head on the left side of the lawn is leaking. You might want to get that looked at before the citizen sends a notice." Then he just walked away. I went back inside and closed the door, feeling like I couldn't breathe. I took another scoop of that collagen powdery. Don't even know why I keep buying this stuff. It tastes like chalk, and sat down at the kitchen table. I started scribbling notes on a legal pad. Dark sedan, 2 a.m., gold hoop, white envelope. The next few days were spent playing detective. I logged into our joint account and scrolled through the last 3 months. David's usually lazy with his spending, but I saw a pattern: weird little charges. $12 here, $25 there. Always at a gas station or a convenience store in a town 20 miles east of here. He had no reason to be over there. Then there was a $45 charge at some florist. He doesn't buy me flowers. Not for my birthday, not for our anniversary. The only time he buys flowers is if he's forgotten something huge and is trying to apologize. I even found a receipt in the pocket of his gym shorts while I was doing laundry. He'd left them in a damp pile on the bathroom floor for 3 days. The receipt was for a hotel cafe, continental breakfast for 2. Dated last Thursday. I remember last Thursday. He told me he had a late conference call and stayed in his office until 9 p.m. He even complained that I was distracting him. When I asked if he wanted tea, I sat there with the receipt and just felt this hot rage. It wasn't even just the cheating, it was but the lying. The way he makes me feel like I'm the crazy one. Like 2 days ago, I asked him to return some bedding because I had a coupon. He told me he didn't understand how the QR codes worked and didn't want to mess up the refund. He's a senior VP of operations. He manages 50 people. He knows how a QR code works. He just didn't want to do it, so I did it. I did the returns. I got the coupon. I drove the kids to practice, and all the while he was probably texting some woman in a dark sedan. I decided to look for that white envelope again. I remembered the camera footage. He slid it under the welcome mat. I checked the mat and found nothing. So he must have come back for it. I waited until he left for work on Friday. As soon as his car pulled out, I went outside. I got on my hands and knees and searched the whole porch. I didn't even care about the dirt getting on my leggings. I looked under the decking, behind the potted ferns, everywhere. I didn't find an envelope, but I found a small plastic key fob. It wasn't for a car. It looked like a key for a storage unit or a gym locker. There was a tag on it with a number, 412. I spent the rest of the afternoon driving to every storage place within 5 miles. I felt like a lunatic. I was stopping at red lights, gripping the steering wheel, wondering if I was actually losing it. I kept thinking about Rick Saunders and that smug look on his face. I hated that he knew. Around 4 p.m., I found a place that matched the fob. I walked into the office and pretended I'd lost my key. "Hi," I told the girl behind the counter. "I have a unit here, but I can't remember the number. I think it's 412. Could you check if that's under David White?" The girl tapped some keys. "Yeah, Unit 412 is registered to a David White. Do you need the access code?" "No," I said. I just needed to confirm, thanks." I walked back to my car and sat there for a long time. I didn't go into the unit. I couldn't. Not yet. I needed more receipts. When I got home, David was already back. He was in the kitchen, staring into the pantry. "Maria," he called out, "where do we keep the extra paper towels?" "I can't find them anywhere." The paper towels were in the cabinet directly in front of him. "Same spot they've been in for 10 years there, right there." "David?" I said. "Where? I don't see them," he said, leaning in and pretending to search. "I swear you organized this place in a way that makes no sense. It's like a puzzle." "Duh!" I didn't answer. I just walked past him, went into the bedroom and locked the door. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the key fob. Then I heard him knock. "Hey," he said through the door. "Do we have any more of those collagen supplements?" "I think I want to try some," you said. "They help with joint pain, right?" I didn't say a word. I just sat there. Throwaway account because my husband follows my main. Still shaking a bit, but I need to get this out. So, Monday morning, I'm on my hands and knees, scrubbing the guest bathroom grout with a toothbrush. David told me it looked a little dingy. The bleach was killing me, and the light in there had been flickering for weeks, which gave me a massive headache. David's just standing in the doorway in his robe, sipping coffee. "You missed a spot by the baseboard," he says. I didn't even look up. I was so pissed, but I kept my head down. "Did you remember the trash?" I asked. He says he forgot. Something about an email from the board. Then he tells me, "Can't you just do it?" It takes 2 seconds. The trash was already overflowing. He was the one who threw away all those huge cardboard boxes from some hobby he started 3 weeks ago and already quit. I stood up, my knees popping, and walked right past him. I didn't say anything. I went to the kitchen and started packing my bag. I told him I had to run errands and stop by the pharmacy for that foot cream I use. Then I drove straight to the storage facility. I didn't even take my coat off. I walked straight to Unit 412. That place always smells like old carpet and dust. I slid the key fob in and pushed the rolling door up, and it made this loud screeching sound. It wasn't a huge unit, just a few plastic bins and a metal filing cabinet. I went for the cabinet first. It wasn't even locked. I pulled out the top drawer and found a manila folder with "private" written on it in David's handwriting. When I opened it, I couldn't believe it. There were photos, a lot of them. Me at the grocery store, me at the park with Leo, me getting into my car at the gym. Some of them were cropped weirdly. There was one of me talking to the guy who sells organic produce at the farmer's market. But it was zoomed in so it looked like he was touching my arm. He was literally just handing me a bag of kale. Tucked inside were these typed reports. At the bottom of every page there was a signature. Richard G. Salas, licensed private investigator. I had to sit down on one of the plastic bins. The reports weren't just tracking me. They were lying. It said I was at a hotel on the 14th. I wasn't. I was at my mother's house helping her move her dresser. I have the texts to show that. And it mentioned the East End. I haven't even been to the East End since 2012. Then I found the emails. He'd printed out a thread between himself and someone labeled S. S was Sarah, my sister-in-law, David's brother's wife. Reading those messages was insane. David had been sending Sarah these reports from Richard G. Salas. He told her I was having an affair, that I was unstable, and that he was trying to hold the family together while I was spending their savings on a second life. And Sarah fell for it. "Oh, David, I had no idea," she'd written. "I always thought Maria was a bit distant, but this is heartbreaking. You are such a saint for not telling the kids." Then I saw the latest ones. They weren't about me anymore. "I can't wait for Friday," David wrote out. "Tell her I'm at a conference in the city. I'll meet you at the usual spot." I sat there in that dusty room staring at the paper. I wasn't even crying. I felt cold. I took the folder, the photos, and the reports. I closed the door, got in my car, and drove to Sarah's house. I didn't call. I pulled into her driveway. She was in the front yard pruning her roses, wearing one of those expensive gym sets that costs more than my weekly grocery bill. "Maria," she said. She had this fake smile. "What a surprise. Is everything okay? You look tired." I didn't smile back. I walked up and handed her the folder. "What's this?" she asked. "The reports from Richard G. Salas," I said. "The ones David's been paying for to make me look crazy while he's sleeping with you." She froze. Then she started laughing. This high-pitched, nervous sound. "Maria, honey, you've clearly misunderstood some things. David is going through a lot. He's under so much stress at work." "Saw the photos, Sarah," I told her. "I saw the emails. I saw where you called him a saint." "Does Richard G. Salas know you're the one he's helping David hide?" The pity disappeared. She got defensive. "You think you're so smart? David told me you were the one cheating. He showed me stuff." Richard provided the papers. "He told us you were seeing someone in the East End." I stared at her. "He lied to you, Sarah. He paid a guy to fake a trail of things, so that when he finally left Mirror when I found out about one would believe me. He made you think I was the villain, so you'd feel okay about screwing your own brother-in-law." Sarah blinked. She looked down at the folder. He said you were unstable. He said you were stealing from the joint account." "I'm the one who handles the account, Sarah. I pay the mortgage. I remember when the insurance is due. If I were stealing, he would have noticed a long time ago." She actually started to shake. "He told me. He said he was doing it for the kids." "He's a senior VP of operations," I said. "He's a professional liar. He used you." "I can't believe this," she whispered. "I can," I said. "By the way, your hedge on the south side is overgrown. Rick Saunders mentioned it to me yesterday. He's probably already emailing the HOA." I turned around and walked back to my car. I didn't wait for her to respond. Anyway, I drove home. I stopped at the store and bought a big bag of those frozen pot stickers the kids like, and a bottle of the expensive wine that David usually saves for special occasions. The house was quiet when I walked in. David was in the living room, staring at his laptop. "Hey," he said, not looking up. "Did you get that foot cream? My heels are feeling a bit dry. Maybe you can get me some too." I walked into the kitchen and put the wine on the counter. I didn't say a word. I went to the pantry and started pulling out the dinner plates. "Maria?" he called out. "Are you listening?" I walked back into the living room. I didn't yell. I leaned over and slammed his laptop screen shut. He looked up startled. "What the hell is wrong with you?" "I'm in the middle of something." "I went to Unit 412 today, David," I said. He didn't move, but I saw his grip tighten on the arms of the chair. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said. "I met with Sarah," I continued. "We had a chat about Richard G. Salas. It's amazing what a private investigator can do for a few $1,000s. Isn't it? Though I think Richard might be upset that he's being paid from a joint account that I have the password for." David looked scared. He opened his mouth to speak, but no sound came out. "I'm not going to make a scene," I said. "I'm not going to cry. I've spent today thinking and I'm done. Done with the grout, the trash, and you." "Maria, look, we can talk about this," he said. His voice got all soft. I was confused. "Sarah was just a shoulder to cry on." "A shoulder to cry on in a hotel room on the 14th, I asked. He shifted in his seat. "I can explain that, don't," I said. "I've already called a lawyer. Not Richard Salas, obviously. Someone who knows how to handle fraud." He stood up, his face reddening. "You can't just do this. What about the kids? What about the house?" "The house is in my name and yours," I said. "And since you've been using our joint funds to pay a pie to stalk me, I think a judge is going to find that interesting now." am going to go make these pot stickers. I walked back into the kitchen. I could hear him standing there in the living room, just breathing. He didn't follow me. I started the water for the pot stickers. As it began to boil, I noticed a small pile of mail on the counter. He'd left the envelopes unopened. I picked them up and started sorting them into the recycling bin. One of them was a notice from the water company about a leak in the main line. I tossed it in the bin and ignored it. Update coming soon. I didn't even look at him while the water was boiling. I just kept staring at the pot stickers, sliding them into the pot one by one. David finally came into the kitchen. He didn't get close to me, but I could hear him just hovering there by the island. "Maria, please," he said. "Let's just sit down. We can figure this out. This is all just a misunderstanding. The paiwasit was for the kids." I was worried about who was around them. I turned around and looked at him. "You were worried about the kids, so you paid a professional to follow me to the farmer's market to buy kale? Seriously? That's your story?" "I was just being thorough," he snapped. "I wanted to make sure everything was above board, and Sarah. She was just helping me process everything. We were both just confused by how you were acting." I just shook my head. I didn't have the energy to yell. I plated the pot stickers, put them on the table, and sat down. He tried to sit next to me, but I shifted my chair away. "I'm not doing this," I said. "The lawyer's name is Brenda. She deals with high-asset divorces and marital waste." That's the term she used. "Using our joint savings to hire a pie to stalk your own wife counts marital waste. You'll hear from her on Tuesday." He looked at the plates, then at me. "You're really going to blow up our family over a few mistakes? Think about Leo. Think about how this looks." "I am thinking about Leo," I said. "I'm thinking about how I don't want him growing up. Thinking that this, the lying, the manipulating, the pretending you can't find the paper towels when they're right in front of you, is what a marriage is supposed to be." He sighed. That loud, dramatic sigh he does when he wants me to feel like I'm the one being unreasonable. "I just don't understand why you have to be so extreme. We could just go to counseling. I'll stop talking to Sarah. I'll do whatever you want." "I want you to leave," I said. He didn't answer for a long time. Then he just stood up and walked out. I heard him go into the bedroom and shut the door. I ate my pot stickers in total silence. They were a little overcooked, but I didn't care. The next few weeks were honestly just a nightmare. That's the part people don't tell you about. Divorce dates, not all big screaming matches. It's mostly just a mountain of incredibly boring, stressful paperwork. I spent half my time at Brenda's office, and the other half trying to make sure the kids didn't notice that their dad was sleeping in the guest room and barely speaking to me. I had to go to Kohl's 3 times in 10 days, because I kept finding things in the closets that needed to be returned. I was obsessed with using these 15 off coupons. I don't know why. I guess it was the only thing I felt like I could actually control. I'd be standing in the return line, holding some sheets David had bought for a project he never finished, and I'd be thinking about the pie reports. Brenda didn't mess around. She loved the pie angle. The fact that he documented your trips to the grocery store as suspicious activity is gold. She told me during our second meeting. She was in this sharp navy suit, drinking sparkling water. "It shows a pattern of control. It makes him look unstable. Not you were going to use this to push for a larger share of the assets and full primary custody." "I don't want to destroy him," I told her. "I just want him gone." "Look," Brenda said, leaning in. "Guys like David don't just go. They fight for the house. They fight for the money. And they try to paint you as the crazy one until the very last second. You don't have to destroy him. You just make it too expensive for him to keep fighting you." Meanwhile, at home, David was leaning hard into the confused husband act. He started asking me where everything was. "Like actually everything, Maria. Where do we keep the light bulbs?" he asked one Tuesday night. "In the garage, in the clear bin marked electrical," I said. I looked there. I didn't see them. "They're on the bottom shelf, David, behind the extension cords." "I don't know why you put them there. It makes no sense," he said. I just stared at him. I was so exhausted I could feel it in my bones. I'd spent the morning chasing Leo around the house looking for a sweaty shin guard. 10 minutes before practice, which I eventually found stuffed inside a sneaker in the mudroom. And now I had to explain. Light bulbs to a man who runs a company of 50 people. Then there was the Nest thermostat. David had this obsession with keeping the house at 68 degrees. I hate the cold. I've always hated the cold. I'd turn it up to 72, and within 10 minutes I'd hear the click of the thermostat being changed back. It's more energy efficient at 68, he'd say, walking past me. I'm freezing, David. You can just put on a sweater, Maria. It's not that hard. I remember standing in the hallway looking at that little glowing screen, and I just felt this wave of rage. It wasn't even about the temperature. It was just the fact that he didn't care if I was cold. The family fallout happened on a Thursday. Mark, David's brother and Sarah's husband, called me. He sounded like he'd been crying, or maybe he was just exhausted. Maria, he said. I don't even know what to say. Sarah told me everything, or well, her version, but I saw the emails David sent her. I saw the reports. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, Mark, I said. Not sorry you found out, he replied. I can't believe my brother did this to you, to us. He's been telling me for months that you were struggling, and that he was carrying the weight of the household. He made me feel like I had to check in on him because you were so unstable. That's just how he does it, I said. He'll tell everyone whatever he needs to, so he looks like the victim. What are you going to do? Mark asked. I'm divorcing and Brenda is handling it. I just want the kids to be okay. I'll help however I can, Mark said. Just let me know. I can't even look at Sarah right now. She's in the guest room, she keeps saying. David led her on and that it wasn't her fault. I almost laughed. Of course she does. The kids were the hardest part. Leo is 12 and has perceptive. He knows when the energy in the room is off. He didn't ask many questions at first, but he started getting these headaches. He'd come home from school and just lay on the couch in the dark. Is Dad leaving? He asked me one evening, while I was folding laundry. I had to redo the school uniforms again, because I'd left them in the washer too long. And they smelled like mildew. I was scrubbing at a collar with a stain remover pen when he asked. Yes, Leo. Dad and I are going to live in different houses. Why? Because we are good for each other anymore, I said. And we can't be happy in the same place. Is it because of the stuff he says? Leo asked. I stood there for a second. What stuff? He told me that you're stressed and that maybe you need help to manage things, Leo said. He said, that's why the house is always chaotic. I felt that coldness again. He was actually trying to make Leo think I was the problem. I didn't cry. I didn't even get angry. I just finished the collar and looked at Leo. Leo, look at me. Do you feel like the house is chaotic? Sometimes, he said. Do you feel like I can't handle things? He shook his head. No. You're the one who knows where my cleats are. You're the one who remembers my dentist appointments. Exactly, I said. Sometimes people say things that aren't true, because they're trying to make themselves feel better about their own choices. Just remember that. The final weeks were just a series of petty battles. David tried to claim he should get the house, because he did all the heavy lifting with the mortgage, even though I was the one who actually scheduled the payments, and reminded him when taxes were due. He tried to argue that the storage unit was for the kids' future, and that the PI reports were just safeguarding the family. Brenda just laughed at him. Not a loud laugh, but a sharp, condescending one that really got under his skin. Mr. White, she told him during the mediation session, we have documented evidence of you using joint funds to stalk your wife. We have emails between you and your sister-in-law discussing your affair. If this goes to a public trial, your reputation as a family man and a senior VP is gone. Do you really want the board of your company to see these reports? That was the turning point. The moment his image was threatened, David folded. The settlement was clean. I kept the house. I got a significant portion of the joint savings to make up for the PI costs. I got primary custody, with David having a standard visitation schedule. He moved into a luxury apartment, downtown, the kind of place with a concierge and floor-to-ceiling windows, which suited him perfectly because he loves being looked at. The day he finally moved out was a Tuesday. He had a moving company in the driveway, and he was acting like he was the one being wronged. I hope you're happy, Maria, he said, standing by the door with one last box. I tried to save this. I really did. You tried to save your image, David. There's a difference. You're so cold, he said. I don't even recognize you anymore. That's because you never actually cared about me, I replied. You just liked that I did everything for you, he sighed. That same heavy sigh, and walked out to the truck. After the movers left, the house felt different. It didn't feel empty or lonely. It just felt quiet. For the first time in 20 years, I didn't have to worry about someone changing the thermostat. The second I walked out of the room, I went into the kitchen and saw a stack of mail on the counter. I remembered a notice from the water company about a leak in the main line. One I'd ignored while everything was blowing up. I finally called a plumber. The plumber came on Friday. He was a guy in his 50s with a smudge of grease on his forehead and a very practical set of tools. He spent 2 hours in the crawlspace, cursing under his breath. "You've had a slow leak here for a while," he told me, climbing out and wiping his hands on a rag. "Lucky you caught it before it flooded the basement. Who installed this line?" "My husband," I said. The plumber looked at the pipe and then back at me. "Well, he didn't do it right. It's a total hack job. I fixed it. But you're lucky it held as long as it did." I paid him, thanked him, and watched him drive away. I went back inside. I walked over to the thermostat. I looked at the screen. It was still set to 68. I reached out and turned it up to 74. I stood there for a minute, listening to the furnace kick on, feeling the warmth start to bleed back into the hallway. I thought about Sarah, probably still trying to convince Mark that she was a victim. I thought about the folder in the storage unit and the manila envelopes. I went into the laundry room and saw a pile of towels that needed to be moved to the dryer. I did it. I didn't forget. I sat down at the kitchen table and opened my laptop. I had an email from the HOA about the sprinkler head on the left side of the lawn. Rick Saunders had probably reported it again. I closed the laptop and just sat there in the silence.